What's up, boys and girls? It's another week of Camera and Flask. Hello to all. We've got Jago, Harrison, Kyle, Tony, the biggest troublemaker of them all right there in the center. There he is. Wait, boom. That guy right there. You look like you're in witness protection there, Slavik. 360 grad. What's going on? Oh, we're beautiful bastards, 360 grad. Of course we are. And then, of course, Ben Barden. And there's something new. There's something new in the vase or vase every week.
Yeah, nice. This is amazing. Next door, they were pruning this tree, and then Indra went and grabbed all the branches off them, and she said, "I reckon we could plant these," and they're just cut off branches, and they have flowered and spawned roots, and they're now planted in the garden as well.
I like it. Yeah, very nice. Tony was thinking about drinking a Lagavulin. And are you going to, Tony? You said you might. And Part-Time Films is here, so basically we can begin. So that's good to know. And this is the pre-flash show. So this will go on for another 7 or 8 minutes. As you can notice, Ben has usurped Caleb's spot for some reason. I don't know why he's on that side. And then Slavik is in Ben's spot. And somehow I'm always on this side, it seems like. So Tony's already poured his Lagavulin. So I think it's okay. Sam is here, which is awesome. And people are pouring in. It's good to have everybody here. This is a unique episode because we have not only changed up the topic, we have a guest co-host because fortunately to have Slavik here, but we unfortunately have somebody of the three amigos down for the count. So our good friend Caleb Pike, aka the golden child, the golden boy, has the flu. So the kids finally got to him, and he normally dodges the bullet. So there you go. Can we? Oh my God, 360 grad. You can't. What are you going to do? You're going to not only demonetize me, I'm going to get delisted from YouTube. I'm not acknowledging those types of comments. You're killing me. How you doing today, Ben? How's everything?
Good, mate. Cheers. Yes, a bit more awake than last week.
Good.
I'll be mainly at home, just sort of getting my last edits ready for my traveling next week, which is all getting very exciting now.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk a little bit about that. In fact, the three of us, and by the way, I'll do an official introduction, but here front and center in the beautiful city, it's not in town, hamlet of Corvallis, Oregon, is our good friend Slavik. And Slavik, say hi to everybody.
Hey, how's it going? Long-time listener, first-time co-host.
I thought you were going to say first-time caller.
Yeah, I think I've been here since episode 1 of this series.
Wow!
And this is. I'm really glad that you guys trust me to not sour this series. So thank you.
I totally don't trust you, but I really had no choice. So in the 11th hour, here you are, Slavik.
Yeah.
So
we're actually about an hour and a half away, right, from each other.
Actually, so, I think really if I got down to the bottom of the hill and I made a beeline, I could probably get to you in under an hour. Yeah.
Well, so we were thinking, Ben, we were thinking of doing a little prank where we would show up just like this, but then the last 5 minutes of the chat, I stand up and then walk into Jem's frame.
Yeah.
And just really freak everybody out.
Be fun.
Yeah, we should save that for next time.
Joseph, that's so mean. Maybe if Caleb had stronger drink choices, he wouldn't have the flu. Jeez, man. Inbox me to Chicago. What's going on?
Possibly true.
Is Lagavulin the one that tastes like a cigar?
No. Lagavulin is smoky and sweet. Lafroy tastes like a campfire met a medicine cabinet is my best description of Lafroy. Kind of.
Oh, that's right.
Speaking of which, did you see on, I think, one of the events we're going to next week, I won't say which one, but there was a thing about having your own custom-made cigars rolled for you there and then.
No, really?
Yeah. You know which event I'm talking about. But yes, that was a that was a thing. Apparently, you could have your own cigars rolled for you.
I've seen it. I've been at events at NAB. I've probably been at one of those events. But you know, at a certain point in time, sometimes you forget where the location was, and then you have to be reminded again the following year, maybe. Right, Slavik?
Do you remember that a few years ago there was this fad where you could vaporize alcohol? You could go to a bar and have alcohol vaporized into your system, just like you can, you know, with vapes, whatever. And
I'm not going to ask you did it, but did it work? Is the question, because I know you tried it.
People, I won't say who got drunk, vaporizing alcohol.
Just saying.
Really? That could be the next show. You guys, you know, you guys could attempt to vaporize whiskey.
Yeah.
Sounds like a less horrific version of snorting vodka.
The what? In what form?
Snorting. Have you never done that? Snorted vodka?
No.
In your youth? No.
No.
Don't. It's horrible. But there was
even in my youth, if somebody recommended it to me, I would say no.
Go on, Ben. What else have you done?
So dull.
Would you vape? I would not vape Lagavulin. I guess you could vape. Can we concentrate Lagavulin into a vape pen?
If it was inside of a cigar where you were smoking a cigar and vaping Lagavulin in one physical cylinder, I would be interested.
You're ridiculous. Droid Media is going to be Caleb's Illinois surrogate. By the way, just a quick shout out, like guys, let's do a wave here. If for some reason Caleb is torturing himself and actually watching this, which I hope he's not, because this is going to be a train wreck, let me just tell you, we hope you feel better. And there you go. Everybody give your feel betters to Mr. Caleb Pike. By the way, just a little housekeeping, which I'll try to remember to talk about at the end of the show as well. We have shifted the pre-NAB show, kind of the crystal ball show, to next Wednesday with Caleb and I. Ben will be in transit and will be meeting up with us next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. So you'll be traveling a week from today, Ben, and then we'll all be in Vegas. Yeah.
See, I don't know what the crack is with Lufthansa and Wi-Fi on planes. And I can't do it sitting next to someone. But I reckon if there was a little corner of that big A380 that I'll be on, that's the huge double-decker one.
Yeah.
There might be some little corner somewhere that I could go. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? 5 minutes?
Yeah,
I doubt it very much, but
you might be able to do the chat part. I mean, the thing that I've noticed is that Alaska has upgraded on most of their planes, their internet now to be quite fast. And so you can watch YouTube videos and do things like that. But if you pick up your phone and you try to make a phone call over Wi-Fi, it doesn't work. It's just gobbledygook. So there's some sort of disconnect there with that whole system. But you should definitely be able to hop on and have a chat with us at least, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to take my laptop to the loo and go and lock myself in there. I think that'd be fun.
Too much information. And then 360 grad, Gatorade, also some electrolytes would help to help you replenish. Just drink lots of water, do all that good stuff. So we are at 3:01 p.m. I'm going to say this is the official start of Camera and Flask episode, what the heck is it, 22, though Ben will argue that it might be 26 in his mind, or maybe even 30-something, because he thinks that we frequently black out, or that I do, or something.
You have problems with counting, is what it is.
I do, maybe I do. Well, it's also that I'm doing Gearbox, and that's what confuses me every week in terms of stuff. So I do get messed up. Yeah, let's just say I have trouble with counting. So this is our weekly episode. Today we had a suggestion from our fine guest co-host, who I'm going to have introduce himself in a moment, and it's continuing to learn. So we're going to be talking about continuing to learn your craft of video production and filmmaking and some ideas behind that. We also want to hear from you. Also an open forum in the chat for everybody to just have a go at questions and things that you want to talk about. Myself, Slavik, and Ben will be keeping an eye on those things. And let's go ahead and just do our intros. And while we do our intros, why don't we introduce what we're having to drink today as well? And Slavik will explain his situation in a moment. Slavik, it's on to you. Uh-oh, he's left the frame. Oh, he's back. Okay.
Hey everybody.
What is that? A coffee stain in the bottom?
I'm drinking loads of Nespressos today, which you might wonder what an espresso is, because George Clooney didn't do a very good job of explaining what it was in those commercials. It's just coffee, and I'm drinking lots of them today because I'm on a university campus where drinking at work is frowned upon. Yeah.
This is a university, and drinking's frowned upon. That's university in America must be different.
Well, no, if you're a student, that's one thing. But if you're working on setting an example. Plus, it's only Wednesdays. Usually Thursdays where the drinking is approved.
Fair enough.
Anyway. So you want me to do an introduction?
Yeah, tell us who you are, and then I'm going to jump in after that.
Okay, yeah. Slavik Boyechko. I started working in filmmaking just a couple of years out of college. I got a job at a PBS station. That's a public broadcasting station in Alaska. And I was doing the fundraising stuff, like you appear on camera and you ask for people's support. If this is the kind of programming that you value for you and your family, then call the number on your screen and make a donation of any amount. Just $10 a month is all it takes to get started with your lifetime commitment to quality programming. Yeah.
Already digressing.
So did that, and right around the time that the DSLR revolution was starting, got into making programs specifically for pledging, and then PBS got into YouTube, and they asked me and my buddy to go and teach a bunch of longtime producers on how to get into DSLR filmmaking around the country. So I actually was teaching right around the same time that I was learning all this stuff. It was kind of interesting. You pick something up and then the next week you're teaching it. So I feel very fortunate about that, and went into freelance filmmaking after that, and did that for a number of years. And just recently took a job here at the university where I work with students on making videos, marketing and promotional videos, and docu-style videos for the university. So that's me.
That's not totally Slavik, but that's a good introduction. Slavik and I have known each other for a number of years, and he also, previous to his current life, ran Gear Dads and Video Dads. So those are brands that you may be aware of. And he is also, he is the Wizard of Oz behind digitalfilmmaker.net now. So any of the content that goes out into the world from that site, all original articles. We've collaborated on something together when we did something with the Zacuto trigger grips system and stuff like that. And we are local to each other. And Slavik also works within the industry. He'll be part of the news shooter team at NAB. And I'm just giving you some little, a little more information in terms of what this guy's all about. And we've broken bread before, and we've had some drinks together before, and we'll be doing more of that in the future. So we hop over to Mr. Ben Barden, who is a lot closer to where Slavik was born than either Slavik or I. So tell us a little bit about yourself quickly. Everybody knows who you are, but we need to know about you and what you're drinking.
All right, so I am in the Czech Republic at the moment, at home, and I'm a filmmaker, photographer, DP sometimes, editor sometimes, director sometimes, producer sometimes, all sorts. This week I have been trying to edit, but mainly glued to BBC Parliament, trying to decide what's happening in my native UK. So if anyone on the chat is keeping on, because there's some votes due in to know which of the indicative votes, which one was the preferred option. If you want to drop that in the comments, because I've turned all my stuff off for now, that'd be great. Drinking this week. Oh, by the way, just before I start this, classy. Slavik, where were you born?
Ukraine.
Oh, not very far at all away from here. Yeah.
Yeah.
A country away. Yeah. So this is from Lidl, which I know Caleb and I have been raiding the discount German supermarkets for our booze choices of late, and this is continuing on that theme. Okay, look at Jem, the booze snob. Look at his nose going up.
No, I'm not. I'm reading a comment about just tuned in, and Caleb looks a little different today from Bill. Oh my God.
Cheers, Jacob. Yeah, so this is called Steam Brew, and I discovered this. They had it on the end of some discount shelf before Christmas, and it keeps making an appearance. It's 7.8%, so it's proper rocket fuel. It's an IPA. The packaging's really nice, and it's fantastic. I've now got my next door neighbor hooked on it as well. So
excellent.
It tastes an awful lot better than it looks.
There's your
What
pour.
about you, Jem? There's my pour.
Yeah, so I'm this guy in the middle, by the way, is not Caleb, just so you know, and it's not Ben, it's Slavik, if you're showing up. Hey, Brian. Caleb is on the mend. He'll be back next week. So I went to the dentist, as British people do, and despite my accent, I am definitely British. And so there's all kinds of stuff going on in here. I mean, by the time I'm an old man, there won't be a lot of stuff going on in here because there just won't be anything left. But I did go to the dentist on Monday morning, and I had another tooth removed. We won't talk about that, even though I just did. So I'm going to go low alcohol today. I have to be quite good for another day or so in terms of how much alcohol is in what I'm drinking. This is out of Hood River. It's a brewer called Freem, who I am pretty partial to. I would say that I probably, between the Oregon brewers, Freem and Crux are my two favorites. Today I'm just doing a 4.9%. I'm doing a Pilsner. I do enjoy a Pilsner every once in a while. Their IPA is fantastic. They have a dank IPA, which is excellent as well. So if you see Freem on the shelf, I would pick up a bottle. I think they make some good product, and I see Slavik nodding his head, and he doesn't totally disapprove. He's had some Freem before, haven't you? Come on, Slavik.
I love them, and I drink them because the more I have of Freem, the more comfortable I am pronouncing their name, because it's Freem. And then maybe like 3 or 4 Freems in, I'm going Freem. You know, it takes a little bit of Freems to get into the Freem. So I like them. They have a good business model.
Yes, they do. Okay, guys. So Caleb got his hair back. So this is a cheers to George Clooney and our guest co-host, Slavik, who's going to maybe put some actual espresso in there at some point. So cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. Na zdrowie.
There we go. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice indeed. Okay. So here we go, kids. So we're going to get started here. We're going to talk about the topic of today, which is continuing to learn your craft related to video production and filmmaking. Again, general comments are fine. We can talk about NAB and all of that stuff, but we really wanted to talk a little bit about education. And then next week, we'll be getting into a 1-2 punch 2 weeks in a row with our NAB episodes. So I think I'm going to start with Slavik, actually. And Slavik, did you go to school for video production and filmmaking? Was that part of what you did?
No, I went to school for English literature, and writing was my thing. And, you know, a lot of us filmmakers did art and you know, growing up and played around with cameras. But no, I didn't really plan to go into filmmaking. But while working at a TV station, there was an opportunity to produce content that would go on air. And when somebody hands you that, you know, opportunity, you go, I'll learn how to do that. Yeah. And so I learned basically through Google University, which I think a lot of us do, except now it's called YouTube University. Basically step by step how to use the camera, and then how to use lenses and lighting and audio. And little by little, you realize everything that you knew a week ago was wrong. But the thing that really taught me was just doing stuff a lot. And at my work, I volunteer to do this weekly documentary series, which is called Indie Alaska, and it turned out to be a big deal. It's still going on years later. But me and my partner in crime went out around Alaska and just shot documentaries every week, edited them Saturday or Sunday night, uploaded them Monday morning. And in the process of doing this, like all the time, interviewing hundreds of people, taking gear out and roughing it up, you learn what works and what doesn't. You learn what you need to learn to get better. And right at the beginning of that, instead of reading a lot of forums and stuff like that, what I had the privilege of was contacting a filmmaker that I liked out of Texas. I liked his style, and got together some money to bring him up to Alaska. And it was literally just like emailing your hero and asking them to teach you everything you know. So he came up and we shot some stuff together, and just watching his approach to shooting B-roll, to interviewing people, to packing gear, to editing was a million times more fruitful than trying to read about all those things. So that really informed me, and now it's one thing I recommend, and I still wish I had more time for, is just to go out and shoot people. Doesn't matter what it is, but just watching people in action, watching how they handle a camera, watching how they handle people, the way they interview, watching how they handle actors, and deal with unexpected circumstances is like, it's just so much better than the millions of online videos you can watch.
Yeah. And so what about...
We had this opportunity a year ago. We shot something together, and, just spending some time with you, Jem, seeing how you work, I wish that like every month, I could go out with somebody new that I haven't worked with and just spend a half a day shooting, because you learn so much about, different ways to approach things when you are around other people and they bring all of their experiences and assumptions and beliefs and what not to do. And so a combination of learning from others and then just doing things a lot is really kind of the thing that I've subscribed to over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually fascinating what you're saying, because it's insight that I've never personally thought about talking to people about in terms of being an educator. But you're absolutely right. Every single time I'm on a set or on location, every single time, if I'm in the role of a producer, a director, a DP, whatever my role is in that production, I always have takeaways. Some of those takeaways are positive and some of them are negative, meaning that something negative happened on the production, but the takeaway was, I need to make sure that never happens, or I remember doing that and now I really want to make sure that that never happens because I'm seeing it from a different viewpoint. But of course, there's also the really good stuff, which is just watching the way people shoot, watching the way they light, watching the way, as you said, Slavik, they deal with and interact with other people, because that's just a huge learning process. So the fact that you found somebody that you liked their style, you were able to connect to them, I think it's great advice. The Grumpy Penguin is here in all caps. It could not be any better the way you entered. Yeah, handling actors is equal to unexpected circumstances. Yeah. I mean, all we do is problem solve. That's what our job is. We learn our craft as well as we can, and then we get thrown into another production situation, and then we try to problem solve and create as much as we can, and then we go, and it's sort of like rinse and repeat. And each time we do it, we hopefully are getting better and better at what we're doing in terms of our craft, but we're also getting better at problem solving. And the combinations of those two things make for hopefully better content for our clients and for the stuff that we're trying to create. For you, Ben, I mean, I mean, I think in some respects, the three of us are somewhat similar. I mean, even in high school, I didn't know that I was going to be in video production and filmmaking. I knew I was going to do business and arts, and I had done some stuff in video, and I had done some stuff in, you know, in other areas. Your real start, like me, really started with photography, didn't it? In terms of creating.
Yeah, it did. So photography was my really big thing from when I did work experience when I was 14 years old at the local paper where my mum worked, and the photographers there I all knew because it was a small paper. The photographers were all amazing. I'm still good friends with them now. And I went and did my work experience. They got me drunk. They taught me how to print and develop and print my own stuff. And that was amazing. And I fell in love with it then, and that never went away. But then I went to university. I got into music and had a band, and we used to save up our money and go and record our shitty compositions at once every 6 months when we'd saved up enough, because back then it cost a fortune because it was all on like 2-inch tape and yeah, really, really expensive. So we did that, and then there was an opportunity to study professional sound and video technology at the University of Salford. And all I was really wanting to do was the audio side of things. And I went to do that course mainly because they required basically nothing to get in. I didn't really need to pass any of my exams. And therefore, I went on and didn't pass any of my exams because I got an offer that said, if you get 1D in any subject, you can come. And so that's essentially what I aimed for and got. Yeah, but then once I started on that, there was a lot of video involved, and the video became far more interesting. And I realized that if I was going to pursue a career in sound, and particularly in terms of sound production from the music industry side of things, I was going to end up spending my working life stuck in a windowless room. And quickly realized that wasn't for me. Enjoyed the video side. We were working on a very, very, very early version of Premiere. And that was all amazing. It was this real sort of excitement. And when we left, I moved out here for about 1.5 years after we left. But then I set up a company when I was, I don't know, 20, 21, maybe 22, with a friend that I was at college with. And we did some production early on. He was an amazing writer and presenter and just the funniest guy you'll ever meet. And that was good for a little while. But then I got a job for the tourist board for the Lake District, which is a big national park, which we've mentioned before on here. And I got this job as the professional sound and video person. Professional video and photographer, but really it was photography. They didn't really have the budget or the kit to do much in the way of video. But slowly that kind of came on. And then I did a film competition with 2 friends, one of the photographer from the newspaper that I did my work experience with, and another friend. We did a 48-hour film competition. And part of that is this incredible film festival called the Kendall Mountain Festival, which is really for mountain film. But they had a program whereby on Monday you could turn up and do basic camera skills or basic editing. And then Tuesday you could do advanced camera skills or advanced editing. And then I can't remember, there were basically 3 days of training to give you enough skills to go out and make a film. And then you'd spend Thursday and Friday going and shooting this film. And that was amazing. And we won the competition for that, which kind of obviously boosted the interest. And that was it. And then it was that kind of commitment to really go and relearn all this video stuff, which I hadn't touched for 4 or 5 years. And, you know, I fudged along with it for 1 year or 2, and it was, you know, doing some all right stuff. But I think it was really that the decision to go and do post-production world at NAB, where I met you, doing some of your classes, that was this kind of decision to really ramp it up and to really learn this stuff, make a commitment to it, and that the business was going to go in that way rather than concentrating on the photography side. And now I when I introduce myself, I say I'm a photographer because that's kind of force of habit, but really that accounts for about 20% of what I do now. And
interesting.
Yeah, it's still what I say first. So I'm a photographer, and then but really work-wise now, and certainly income-wise, I would say it's 90% of it comes from.
Wait, Ben, so you don't introduce yourself as a storyteller?
Oh, Slavik, you cheeky bastard. You're such a cheeky bastard. Unbelievable. Oh boy.
No, I should start doing that though.
Yeah,
thanks. I will next week.
Yeah,
next week.
That'll be what he does when he shakes your hand at NAB. He'll say, "Hi, Slavik. Good to see you again. I'm a storyteller." Yeah. So 360 grad. I can actually read this post. It's actually, I'm able to read the whole thing from beginning to end, believe it or not. To me, the most important on the set is the team. It's not the if something is going wrong, but what is going wrong. So you need a fantastic team who's flexible and chilled enough to handle problems. Very, very true. You know, so much about what we do in this particular industry is about collaboration. And yes, there's a hierarchy that exists, but I would say in small to no crew, the hierarchy changes depending on the project you're doing. So different people take the lead depending on what you're doing. It's very rare that most of the people that I work with are always a director. They're always a producer. They're always a DP. They're always a gaffer. They're always a, you know, a swing, grip and electric, whatever they're going to be doing. They're ACing, they're data wrangling. So we're doing what we need to do for the project that we're working on. And so why work with assholes? I mean, basically, just to be frank, is, you know, it's a creative genius is something that, you know, is fantastic, but really has no place in the vast majority of production. And I mean a psychotic creative genius. When I say creative genius, I'm putting emphasis on the fact that they're insane. There are plenty of creative geniuses that are actually quite socially amazing and get along with everybody and can do things. But most of us are plodding along in the world just trying to get that much better at our craft. We're trying to understand lighting that much better. We're trying to operate a camera with more instinct in terms of making sure that we're motivating what we're doing. We're trying to make our compositions better. We're trying to understand the different focal lengths that we would use and why we would use them, not only because of what the agreements are, but also because we tend to lean towards certain looks and we go through these phases. So, you know, try to find people that inspire you, but also try to find people that you can work with and build up and do so on a regular basis. It makes what we do so much more enjoyable.
And like you said, you know, stepping out of your role that you've been doing for a long time and play assistant camera or play the sound person, it's just like, it's such a cool industry that we have the flexibility to do that. I mean, I don't know of any other creative industries where you can just like play the role of somebody else one day, but we do that all the time, and it only makes sense to take advantage of that always. And I was going to add to what you were saying. You know, there's if you're a professional in this business and you get hired for work that's, you know, people expect to get from you, it's hard to experiment. It's hard to really go out and do something that isn't what they're paying you for. I mean, there's a little bit of leeway. You might try different lenses out or different B or C cam, but for the most part, you kind of want to just ensure that you get what you get. So how do you get those opportunities to do things that are outside of your wheelhouse? Well, there's, you know, fun work on the weekends. You can do stuff with your friends, and you can go out there and just do personal projects. But the one thing that I don't really see a lot of people talking about in this industry is that everybody's for hire. Every single freelancer, it has a rate. And as a person wanting to spend time with freelance creatives, you can pay them for their time. And they're not going to charge you their client rate. They're not going to charge you their day rate. But you know, if you want to get in touch with somebody that's close to you in your area and learn from them, you don't have to pitch a project. You don't have to offer to, you know, carry their bags. You can literally pay them for their time, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it too, because it's What a great way to spend a day is getting paid to help an apprentice, learn the craft.
Yeah, I mean, the longer we do whatever we do as our consistent hat that we're wearing, the more we're thrown into situations where we're interested in or asked to do something that's outside of our comfort zone, that feeling that you had when you were a kid, where somebody's going to call you out to do something, it's magnified when you're older. I mean, and so it's like almost terrifying. I mean, I'm an educator, and there's situations where if I were on a set and somebody said, go and do this, I feel in certain situations I would freeze, and I'm pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of things I know about, but there's areas where I would just totally freeze. And that is fantastic advice from Slavik, which is that if you're interested in learning something, you can hire somebody who's local and have them teach it to you. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. You want to get better at your craft. I will say that a lot of people ask me about internships. And one of my answers to people has a lot to do with being a producer, which is that when I hire people as PAs or to be somebody who's on set that's not in a critical role, and actually PAs are a critical role because you need to rely upon them in productions sometimes more importantly than almost anybody else on the set. My viewpoint is if they're coming to work and I'm not willing to teach them something, and there's not anybody on my crew within the scope of time we have that can actually teach them something, save for them observing and learning from observing, then I would, 360 grad, you're such a cheeky bastard. I would definitely pay that person, and I do pay that person for the work that they're doing, because I'm expecting a certain level of work for that production assistant, and they will learn, but they're not going to be taught. If I'm willing to, or I have the time to actually spend with the person who's on set to teach them something, and that's very hard on a paying job, then you don't necessarily need to feel bad about having that person working for free. But I think that there's an exchange factor. If they're working on a production and you're expecting a certain level of responsibility, then the learning has to happen outside of there. And that's really the tricky part. And then Slavik's talking about, you could do a weekend project, you can do a personal project. The truth is that many of us, myself included, have families, and those things never happen. The best that I can do is get away with a camera and go and take still photographs to inspire me and to do some things. And then the reason that I create the content that I do on YouTube is because it forces me to create content continuously. That's a big part of why I do it. And when I started the C47 in Gearbox originally, I was in production. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I mean, and I just every day created a video, and some of the times I would spend hours and hours creating a video just so I could learn something. And then even then I got flamed, and it was like I had to go back and think about, okay, how am I going to get better at doing that? So forcing yourself into a situation. Yeah, forcing yourself. Yeah.
And,
go ahead.
Because the act of doing something or teaching or talking, you're learning. And in my opinion, there could be millions of YouTube channels and blogs, and it's not enough. It doesn't matter how many people are paying attention or not. The act of learning a piece of gear to talk about it, forcing yourself to spend a lot of time with a piece of gear or with a method is the best way to learn. And putting that out there is, I think that anybody who complains about there being way too many channels out there or whatever, I'm like, it's not about you guys. It's not about the audience at all. It's about the fact that people are putting themselves out there to, that gives them an opportunity to learn.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even express to you how much I have learned by creating content for free. I mean, it's my process that allows me. The reason I stopped doing Gearbox is because after almost, when I got to close to the 3-year mark and I went past 3 years, I wasn't inspired. I didn't have a passion. It wasn't that I knew everything. I was just trying to think of how in 3 to 5 minutes am I going to convey something or talk about something that I'm actually interested in, that I want to spend time doing. And what happened was I really wanted to do more in-depth. I wanted to do something that was closer to what I was doing in classes and workshops, and really, you know, at least sometimes get some real education inside of there. So I kind of lost that drive to do it. I think I'm doing a much better job of it now that I'm doing it on a weekly basis than I was doing it 5 days a week. But it still makes me go and separate from the world and say, I'm going to go create something. And it's my way. I've put it into what I do as a living, even though I'm not making a living from it. It's part of what I do as my process. And it is what allows me to spend the time to learn something or learn about a new piece of equipment and things like that. I mean, I learned by educating. I totally had the same situation as you, Slavik. 5D Mark II came out. I was a photographer since the age of 9 years old because of my dad. I had no freaking idea of how a camera worked. You know, like I could take photographs. I could expose them relatively well. I was pretty good in the darkroom for sure, which is where I probably saved photographs. You know, some people say that's where Ansel Adams saved his photographs as well. I don't know if that's true or not, but I was no Ansel Adams, you know, and so I even got into a high school in New York for photography when the 5D Mark II came out, and I had been doing video for years and years and years. That's when I learned the language of photography and cinematography. That's when I was forced to, but I was already a teacher. And so I was doing exactly what you were doing, Slavik, is I was learning something and I was going to a classroom with extreme enthusiasm. And I was teaching people that stuff. And I absolutely loved it. So I was definitely faking it until I made it. I still am to an extent, but I have just a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more experience under my belt. Ben, for you, like, what is it that you do on an ongoing basis to inspire you? I mean, you know, we all go to News Shooter and we go to Cinema 5D sometimes, and we read about equipment, but what is it that you're doing that kind of gets you going in terms of continuously learning? You know, I'm starting to listen to podcasts now more often, but what are some of the things that you're doing?
I think there's, and this whole thing with a huge amount of content on YouTube, and that you end up sitting in front of stuff day after day after day, watching things. And I find that to an extent counterproductive. For me, it just sort of stops going in and I just get overwhelmed with it and bored with it. And I think when I'm really trying to learn something, actually paying or in having some kind of investment in it makes it, I don't know, it goes in better. And that was the whole thing with doing NAB. And I've been to NAB and done it as press, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. But the first 2 times I did it, I went and I paid the $1,100-$1,200 for post-production world. And the amount that you learn in something like that was great. And I haven't done anything like that for a little while. But when I do those, I did one last year, actually. There was a course that Zeiss did in one of the rental houses in Prague. And that was great because I've actually had to get on a train, go to Prague. And it's kind of separated me out from I'm very bad with self-discipline. And we've had this conversation before for when I'm at home. As soon as I'm engaged in something else and I'm out of the house, it's an entirely different thing. So finding those kind of things and things that are training events, and there's loads of free stuff. So Canon used to do, and they do it on a slightly smaller scale, but they used to do this big show through CPS in London every year, which was great. They do kind of regional, smaller events now, but that thing was amazing because they would have dozens of speakers. Dan Chung was there when he was in London. I can't remember which of the papers he was working for at the time. It was around the time of the tsunami, and he'd just done this huge piece on DSLR, and it was one of these kind of really big milestone bits of work. And he was presenting that, and those things were great. So I find those things for me are a good way of learning because it goes and it gets you not only in front of really interesting people who are experienced and good speakers, but it's also getting you connected with more of your peers. And those things, I just get my head into the environment of it. Then I find it because I work from home, and Jem, I know you do too. I don't know you, Slavik, so, but it's if my kids are around, and I have a certain amount of time in the day, which is normally involving invoicing, editing, doing logistics, organizing flights for the next job or visas or whatever it is. And then they come home, and that's kind of, I find that sort of tricky then. So for me, something that I actually go to as a training event, or I actually have to have invested something in it and got my head out of my normal day to day, and then I can really absorb it and I get far more out of it. I think it has to be quite a deliberate thing for me. Obviously, there's the stuff for learning a camera. Like new camera this last week, which I'm not finding massively intuitive to set up, to be honest. So this is the EOS R, and I'm finding it really. So I'm now watching loads of YouTube videos to see how people are reassigning buttons to make it slightly less fiddly. But for
you should talk to John Romer. Talk to John Romer about that too. I don't know if you know John, don't you? Yeah, you got it pretty sorted now.
I've got it more or less sorted for video now. I'm still not. It takes nice. I'm very pleased with the results I'm getting from it, but it's it's a problem with just getting all my controls that I'm used to having on more buttons, and there's not enough buttons, so you have to multi-assign things and have modifying buttons, and that's all kind of annoying. But yeah.
I'm going to answer a quick question from a 360 grad about CPS, which are Canon Professional Services events. Can you recommend them? You're afraid they're just big sellout. I mean, I've done them. So yes, they are a big sellout. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's, I would say this. I would say that no matter what it is, whether you go to lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning, you go to MZ Pro, you go to Creative Live, you go to a live class from a workshop, it's always going to boil down to the instructor. It's always going to boil down to the educator that's in that room, because it's going to be their preparation, their experience, their knowledge base, and how well they communicate not only to you in that environment, but also communicate to you in a way that you can learn and apply. Because we're not in this to just listen to somebody. We want to take knowledge away with us and be able to actually put it into action, even if we're not going to get the exact result that's being talked about right away. For me personally, I'm dying to do the ASC masterclass. I've wanted to do it for the last 2.5 to 3 years. Am I terrified? Sure. I mean, I shoot, I light. I know I'm going to be put into situations in that environment that are going to make me feel uncomfortable, but I really need that. Like, I need that to happen sometimes. And I am really trying to push myself now to a different level in terms of, I know where my next area of education is. And I think that for everybody out there, that's really the first thing you need to acknowledge. What is the thing that is driving you, that you're thinking about, that you want to get better about, having to do with your craft, whether that's camera, that's lighting, that's audio, whatever it is. I've talked about this before. I use books for inspiration, and I have a list of them on my website. This is one, Lighting for Portraiture, which is a fantastic book. It's an old book. You're going to have to buy it used. Matters of Light and Depth from Lowell and from Ross Lowell. And then there's a couple of other ones that are out there. And what I'm trying to figure out now is I'm starting to get more comfortable with lighting faces and where I want to place lights in terms of lighting people to an extent. What I'm really trying to work on is how do I light bigger spaces, not smaller spaces, but depth, and creating something that's in my mind that I might see in a narrative. And how am I going to have my own viewpoint to work with a team of people to say, here's what we need? Because I'm not shooting commercials and I'm not shooting narrative films on a regular basis, but I strive to get more towards lighting even more that way. And there's not one way, but it's just being able to understand and be able to light larger spaces. There's a kind of an amazing but very much an alpha/beta app that's out now that you can get through Steam, which is called Cine Tracer. Matt Workman, sorry, from Cinematography Database. And he originally built this whole system inside of Cinema 4D, but now he's building it on the Unreal Engine, and he's doing it and distributing it through Steam. And he has now PC and Mac versions. And you can go into entire sets, and he just keeps building it out with actors and props and lighting fixtures and lighting control. And you can go in and you can basically put characters into a large street and you can start to light it. And I don't have that opportunity. Like, I can't go take a crew out to a New York City street and say, I want to go ahead and figure out how to shoot a scene and just learn how to do that. But I can play around, and I can take the time to do that in Cine Tracer. And for $80, it's a steal, even though it's still in beta, because I'm just learning things. I'm learning about, like, where would I put that street lamp to get the effect that I want? Is it completely 100% accurate at the moment? No, it's not. But I understand where the light source is coming from. I understand that it's a harder or softer light source. So it's giving me the ability to start to imagine and have greater confidence if I was in those situations. And I think it's a fantastic tool personally. And I know some people knock it, but I'm not knocking it. It's fantastic.
Well, it's still beta, isn't it? I mean, there's still a long way to go with it.
Long way to go. Totally beta. Yeah.
I would add to what you guys are saying, in that, you know, having skin in the game, which, whether it's scheduling time for Jem or for Ben, scheduling an event to attend, it's all just kind of, the way that I see it is active attention. It's not passively taking in information, it's actively taking in. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge difference. I mean, it's not about going out and watching everything or attending everything. It's like, you could be paying attention for 2 minutes and take away something that just lasts you 2, 3, 4 years of inspiration. And it's kind of like when you're watching a sitcom or a comedy special in the background. You could watch, I mean, the funniest Eddie Murphy special could be on in the background, and if you're not paying attention, no laughs. If you turn and watch it for a few minutes, you could just be on the floor, you know, crawling around, just barely being able to breathe. Yep. And with YouTube, it's hard to give it attention sometimes because it's just there. It's in the background. Podcasts too. So sometimes having something that forces you to just sit and watch, like MZ Pro or buying a LinkedIn learning course or something, makes you just want to sit down and take it in. And that's when you really just, like, you take away stuff. I mean, I just watched this Philip Bloom masterclass at MZ, and I'm not all the way done, but there's just one, like, 30-second thing in his time-lapse module about hyperlapse, and he actually had somebody on showing him how to do hyperlapses with just a camera on a monopod, and every 5 seconds taking a step and taking a shot, taking a step, taking a shot. And it's not, you know, an intense tripod dolly kind of deal. It's just walking around. And I knew about hyperlapses and time lapses forever, but watched that thing, paid attention, and for weeks I've just been, like, on this high, trying things out. I feel like this whole new world is opening up to me, where I'm walking around and just seeing hyperlapses everywhere and going, that's so cool. Right,
I've got it just on this. So, Slavik, when you go and have a look at Hyperlapse Poland, and you'll get to this guy who's made this for the Polish Tourist Board. He's made this series of films which are nearly all hyperlapses, and you've never seen anything. His transitions and the way that he'll do one, and it comes, so he's in this car, and how we've even gotten to the car is incredible, because it's been a toy car which is turned into a real car, and then you're in the car, and then it comes out of the window, and there's a guy painting a picture of this landscape with the boat, and then he goes in and he's framed the painting exactly as he's now got this shot framed up. And it's one of those where you're going, I can't figure out how he's done it. And it's amazing. But then you can sign up for, I can't remember how much it is. It's next to nothing. And he'll show you how he's done every single shot and every single transition. But he's got some even basic stuff using gimbals for doing hyperlapses.
Yeah.
And with the settings in. And I was having in fact, we used it on a commercial job recently. We were just doing sort of tours around a warehouse. And it was amazing because we were just following forklift trucks, and it looks fantastic. But everyone should look up that guy. I will put it into the comments on the bottom later on, and find this guy's link, because it's out of this world. Amazing stuff.
Let's just answer a quick question, and then I'll get back to you, Slavik.
Okay.
Brian Paul, do you ever do spec projects? So So my answer to that is for clients, no. But I actually, talking about continuous education, I think one of my takeaways recently is that I'm starting to realize that I can become inspired by something, but I don't necessarily need to always do a deep dive. So I listen to Wandering DP, the podcast. He grates on some people. I've learned to like him. But he's got some really great guests, and he has his own style of delivering. And again, that's another thing with education. It's like, I've done 4 or 5 courses with LinkedIn Learning. You may or may not like my teaching style. So you have to find instructors that you like their teaching style. You also have to, like when you pick up a book, you have to read 4 or 5 pages of the book and figure out if you like the way the author writes, the way they communicate, because that will make the difference between whether or not, while you're having a cup of coffee, you flip through and you learn a nugget of information or not. So it's taking little takeaways. $120 a year for masterclass, forget about it. I mean, all of these things are cheap. MZ Pro, $150, $200. If you spent 6 hours a year and you learned 1 thing or 2 things that increased your ability to do production from any one of those resources, you would be better at what you're doing, and it would be worth that investment. We charge our clients a fair amount of money, and our job is to get better at what we do. So I think it's our responsibility to, if we want to, continue to educate ourselves. But spec projects for wanting to get into a particular industry, that's the Wandering DP thing. There was actually a director, and he did spec projects with his friends for car commercials, and he wound up getting into the whole world of car commercials because he had his own voice and his own viewpoint. All right, that's all I got to say.
I just want to pick up on that for a second. So with the spec, Jago, I don't know if you're still in the chat or if you're still watching, but often what happens is we get a spec project, which sounds great, and it sounds like it's something that you're going to be able to use as a showcase for your talent to then go and promote your commercial services. And what you have to be really careful of is that hello, he's still here. So there was one we did recently, which kind of, you then end up having so many external people who are invested in the project that it gets compromised because you're not able to do exactly what you want. And Jake will know the project that I'm talking about that we did recently, which I still think we did a nice job of and we produced a nice film from. But we ended up getting kind of expenses for it, but we didn't really make any money out of it. But from when we was talking about it initially, we were thinking this is going to be great. And we had this great idea about how we were going to do it. And then all the people that were involved in the project ended up having slightly different ideas for it. And it got very complicated, and it got, I would say, compromised. And the finished film, although I'm pleased with it and I'll certainly put my name to it and quite proud of it, it's not what we envisaged. So I think if you are going to do spec projects, you've really got to try and stamp your authority onto it in terms of having control. If you're not getting paid, you should really, really retain control of it. And that's something that I don't think we were able to do, particularly with that project. It was still a fun thing to do, and it's always nice working together. Jago and I work together on commercial stuff quite a bit, and he's amazing. And it was nice to work on this too, something a bit different. But I don't, we could have done something even more spectacular had we retained full control over it, I think.
Cool. I think like the nexus of this industry is getting paid to learn, to do something that you've never done before. That would be great. It doesn't happen a lot. Once in a while, you can convince a client with a request for a proposal that you have this really cool vision, you think you can achieve it, it's going to look great, and they'll take a chance on you. Most of the time, you don't tell them that you don't know how to do it. You just say, yeah, I have this cool vision, and I think I can achieve it, and then you get the job, and then you learn on the job, but you're kind of flying at the seat of your pants because you're not actually sure if you're going to execute it or not. But for the most part, it's the only time that you really get to blazingly go out and learn and tell people that you're just learning and doing something for fun is like when you're doing something for free or spec. But like Ben is saying, for the other people in the project, they're not in it to help you learn. They're in it to do something, and they have you on board to do it for them.
Yeah, so, and just to to clarify, the thing that we were talking about, it wasn't a for-profit thing. It was an art project, and I think everyone had their own thing in. But it was good. The other thing that I would love to do more of, which I haven't done for ages, is to do some more film competition stuff.
Yeah, 48 hours.
So there was the Prague 48-hour film marathon recently, and the winning entry was incredible. Like, the standard was just insane. And that's what really got me thinking again, because I thought, well, if you're up against that and you go and enroll in a competition where you're needing to compete at that kind of standard, that's fantastic. And the stuff you were talking about, Jem, earlier, about the lighting spaces that you don't get to light on a commercial job, and the kind of stuff that we make our money from, I suppose. Yeah, that it's an ideal opportunity. So I would love to do something like that again. And it's probably been, I don't know, 7-8 years since I've done one of those things. Would dearly love to have a go at that and do something that's more of a narrative piece.
Hey, I just sent out this link. There's this very little known how-to video by, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Nino Gianotti, Florida-based, longtime video producer, does all the high-end sports interviews. Anytime you see like an amazing NFL interview, he's the one that's lighting and shooting it. And he put together this how-to. He's not comfortable talking on camera, so he wrote the script and had somebody read the script in third person. And the stuff that he's showing in this thing is just like, I mean, there's so many little nuggets. So I want to send that because I don't really see anybody else talking about it online. It's very little known, but somehow I came across it and I took away so much from this thing. You do have to pay, I think, like $15 for it or something, but it's highly worth it.
Yeah.
Have a look at that. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. How about Camera and Flask film competition? 3 judges, intense competition, heartbreak, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat, and lots of drinking and commiserating afterwards. I added that part. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't want to get into judging. I think we've had this conversation before, but I think it would be cool to do something like that.
Yeah, I'm not totally opposed to it.
I mean, I'm okay with just going head to head with Caleb, and then the audience can decide who they like. I mean, whose video they like.
Oh my God. Are you going to use a Rode microphone? Because he's not. Hello.
Oh yeah, I love this thing.
Oh, you're so funny. So we're going to start to wind this thing down and just have a little chat about next week and stuff. I would say everybody who's here watching that Slavik is a very worthy guest co-host. And next week, if you're not offended, Ben, and if Slavik is available, so we keep a trio happening, maybe if you have time next Wednesday, Slavik, before we're all going to be packing, we're all leaving, soon after that. Maybe you could hop on with Caleb and I and just have a chat about some of the crystal ball pre-NAB chatter that's going on. Would you be up for that or not? Are you going to be able to get away, Mr. College digital filmmaker man? Yeah, you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, good. I mean, we know you'll be having espresso.
I'm 50, but yeah.
Yeah. So and then if we have a competition, then we get to keep all of Caleb's old lenses. Is that right?
That's a really good idea. I've seen his studio tour, and there are a lot of goodies in there that don't seem like they're getting a lot of use. So, yeah.
This is what happened when you get the flu there, Caleb. So any last questions? I mean, I have shameless self-promotion. I have courses on lighting at lynda.com, so you can check those out if you're a subscriber. If you're not, you can subscribe for a month and see if you like it, and then you can cancel.
Oh, Discord. I have a Discord. I forgot. It's just me and Tony Burns talking most of the time. But if you go to digitalfilmmaker.net, at the right side, there's a enter your email address to get the Discord link. And I set it up like that so that one day I can sell my email list.
And make millions of dollars.
Yeah. But anyway, so we talk about gear and filmmaking and share videos. So yeah, that's my shameless self-promotion.
Good. Good. Any other questions that we have from anybody else? Next week is going to be a pre-NAB show where we're just going to be talking about all of the things that are dropping on the news sites, any announcements that have happened, and sort of some things that we're thinking might be coming out. Keep your eyeballs on newshooter.com and see if there's any announcements there. That's kind of my de facto. It's already started. There's all kind of stuff going on. That little RX-02 is very interesting.
It's really
with the flip screen. Really interesting.
See, now, that camera, when they brought out the original version, I was because I hate GoPros, always have done, and that became kind of interesting, and now it's become really interesting. The battery life's terrible, which is the only.
Well, it's issue. Sony. Tony, you spent all your money and you won't be tempted by NAB announcements. Yes, you will. You'll be tempted. So don't say that. That's a lie. Yeah, part-time films, you don't still live in Vegas, and be thankful you don't, because you might not be alive. There you go.
I don't understand how anyone lives in that place. It's
no, it's like a week, and last time I was there, and I was in Red Rock most of the time. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Ben, parting words, and then we say, you know, safe travels for you. What you got?
All right. Well, just looking forward to talking to you all from the press room at NAB in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Have a good show next week. I will try and join you in the chat if I get some signal or some internet on the plane, because I guess I'll be about an hour out from LA when you go live.
Yep. And by the way, if you haven't been to the show at all, meaning NAB, or even if you have, you can see Ben and myself and Caleb before that Wednesday, when on Tuesday at 3 p.m. we'll be between Central and South Halls, where that beer garden place is, and we'll be having a pint or 12 ounces or a plastic cup of something, as we do in Vegas. So get your $20 together for your single beer and come over and say hi to us and have a drink.
Bring a hip flask. Bring a hip flask.
And then bring a hip flask.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Slavik? Say your goodbyes.
Thanks again, everybody, for allowing me to sit in. Caleb's seat is very difficult to replace. He's a great...
Well, Ben's in his seat, so don't worry about it. You're in Ben's seat.
All right. Well, yeah, Ben is easy to replace. But no, this has been great. And I hope that not only I can come back, but that we could have other chatters, guest co-hosts. That would be really cool if everybody got a chance. This whole show is about doing to learn. And so how do you learn how to live stream and be nice to people who are live streaming is by doing it rather than just peanut gallery, you know, grumpy comments like I've been doing for 21 episodes.
You're amazing. You're amazing. The heckler, we like to call you. And now the heckler has become a part of the show. So,
sorry for everything I've ever said. Yeah.
Stop it. Thanks for the great topic idea for this week.
Absolutely.
And all the best to everybody. Love you guys. See everybody soon at NAB if you're going. Ben, I'm sure we'll talk beforehand, but just in case, safe travels on the way out to this strange country that I live in. And Slavik, again, thank you so much. And I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys soon. All right.
All right.
All the best, everybody. Take care.
Bye.